So, if any of you have taken a course on genetics, DNA, the biochemistry of cancer, it's highly likely that you have come across this protein, p53. Now, before we dive into the details of what p53 does, it's important to understand that proteins involved in cancer regulation and the genes that these proteins are derived from are generally divided into two categories. Oncogenes, so genes that are directly responsible for perpetuating cancer, and tumor suppressor genes, which are responsible for ensuring that cancerous cells do not proliferate through the body. So the curious thing about p53 is that if you look it up in the literature or even do a quick internet search on it, it will normally come up as being a tumor suppressor gene, meaning that activation of p53 and expression of the p53 protein leads to the suppression of malignantly growing cells. However, a p53, especially in the later stages of cancer, can also serve the function of an oncogene. And the gene responsible for expressing p53 is mutated in greater than 50% of all human cancer. So, just to contextualize p53 for you a bit more generally, it is a 53 kilodalton protein, making it a fairly average size in the human body. I would say that human proteins normally range from 39 to approximately 55 kilodaltons. And p53 is composed of 4 subunits. So, it is a tetramer and consists of 393 amino acids expressed in the nucleus of cells. Now, a very grand label for p53 that you may well have come across is the guardian of the genome, because when it is expressed, p53 acts as a key transcription factor during DNA repair, essentially acting as a checkpoint to decide whether the DNA should be repaired and the cell can keep functioning, or if the cell should undergo apoptosis, that is, cell death. So now you may be thinking, if p53 is implicated in over 50% of human cancers, then why is it that it is not actively being used as a drug target to treat cancer? Could this not be the golden ticket to solving all of our problems in oncology? The main issue here is that it appears to be very difficult to restore p53 function, partly because the protein has a very smooth surface and does not have an ideal location to form a drug binding pocket. So, circling back to my initial point about p53, a tumor suppressor, also being able to act as an oncogene. The key point to understand here is that when p53 is inactivated, key tumor suppressing pathways are essentially disabled. However, at the same time, mutations in p53 can equip the protein with additional oncogenic functions. So essentially, this is a double-barreled pistol. Inactivation of p53 through a mutation leads to a reduced ability to suppress tumors, and at the same time, mutations in p53 can lead to additional functions that enable tumor proliferation. Now, one important clinically relevant point that we have not yet discussed is Li-Fraumeni syndrome, which is a rare inherited genetic condition resulting in a mutation in the TP53 gene, which codes for the p53 protein. And nearly all individuals with Li-Fraumeni eventually end up developing some form of cancer throughout their life, which is a further demonstration of the tumor suppressing function of p53. The condition is actually autosomal dominant, meaning that having only one copy of the mutant gene can lead to the development of Li-Fraumeni and will, without exception, predispose the individual to developing cancer. So before we wrap up, one curious fact of nature that I wanted to mention is that elephants are remarkably resistant to cancer due to the fact that they have approximately 20 to 40 different varieties of p53. So if one version of p53 mutates and gets knocked out, there are dozens of other versions of the protein that can take over and carry out a tumor suppressing function. So there we have it, a brief overview of p53, a tumor suppressor protein, which also has the capability to function as an oncogene if mutated, implicated in many human cancers, and definitely a protein to keep in mind whenever we consider oncological phenomena. I hope this video has been helpful. And please do feel free to drop any questions you may have in the comments.